Zuckerberg must have twigged it was me that shut Facebook down. He must have twigged, although I think the problems tonight are coming from YouTube because he can't seem to log into it. People should be saying they're watching us now, and they're not. Which is a bit weird. It is a bit weird indeed. 3 people are saying they're watching. But Mark Kerr, good evening to you. We know we're live when Mark Kerr gets in. Sorry about that, folks. We're having technical difficulties. 3rd time lucky. We went live exactly at 10 o'clock tonight. It dumped me straight out. So I apologize for that. We're 10 minutes late. We were later than that one time about a year ago, I think, Marty. Weren't we? I think we had real problems one night.
Oh, I think that was maybe my end. We'll blame the Glenarm internet. But
yeah, I'm back up to 5 bars internet. It could have been in the internet, but it dumped me straight out and it gave me an error message I've never seen before. There's Jarlath Watson saying good evening as well. Frank Heron. Yeah. Julie Mason is saying hello. Sean McClanahan as well. Yeah. I was talking to William McClanahan today. Do you know he told me that he hasn't got his T-shirt or subscription? Do you know when they were doing that thing at Belfast Whiskey Week, they were doing a T-shirt and subscription? His hasn't come through yet. So you can chase that up with Paul, can you?
No problem.
Will you do that for him?
I'm on this tonight, by the way, guys. So I didn't mind being a minute or 2 late because I'm on Nitro Surge.
What on earth is that thing?
This thing, you put this on and you turn up your Guinness and it does something. It Nitro surges your tin of Guinness. This is £20 and this is £2 a tin. Right? So put it like this.
Would it not be cheaper to go to Witherspoons?
It'd be cheap going down to Stevie's or Patricia's in Glenarm. It's nearly the same price as the thing. Now,
is it better than the 0-0, is it?
It's better than the 0-0. Is it better than an ordinary tin of Guinness? Probably not, no. To be honest. So that's another £20 down the Swanee. But you hate to try these things, don't you? Come on and get
you do indeed. You do. Indeed.
So what happened just there, Justin? You're the tech man. What happened?
I have no idea. I can't get logged in. We aren't on YouTube tonight, so if you're supposed to be watching it on YouTube, you're not watching it. It will go up to YouTube about 11:30 tonight. It'll go up. But we are on LinkedIn tonight, and we are on Facebook, but we're not on YouTube because
this happened when you mentioned space. You said something about us going into space, and they cut us off. I think it's William Shatner's getting jealous.
Well, they did it twice at the same point, but normally it gives you an error message. It won't work, but it just cut us straight off there, you know. I thought I hadn't put enough money in the meter for the leggy or something like that. There, but,
50p in the meter.
We're not due to upgrade until February, and exciting things are going to happen between there. And I have that feeling. I have that feeling.
Now, I was watching the BBC just before coming on there because Fedor was fighting in Bellator, and anybody who knows anything about MMA, Fedor Emelianenko, the Russian dude, was fighting, and he sparked out some big guy in about a minute. I didn't even know he was fighting. I just happened to see it. So I was watching that. Anyway,
hold on a minute here. Something's wrong.
Right.
You've changed the image behind you. That's what's happened. You've changed the image. I knew there was something wrong with it. Move that. Oh, you've put another one up.
No.
I'm going to put you on solo. Hold on. Solo on. Right, there you go. Look at that
Justin.
there.
No, Justin. I haven't put on one new one. I've put on 2 new ones. I've just gone a little bit higher. Like this one, you can see the Bushmills mirror.
Yeah.
And just above it, there's another little thing. Okay? Now, bear with me a wee second. I don't want to spill a lot of stuff. But this, you'll like this. Or certainly, Jarlath will like this. Jarlath will like this one. Hang on. Because what it is, it's a Dunville's pound note. You see it? Dunville's.
Classy, yes. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The Royal Irish Distillery. It's a note. Basically a copy of an old, like, £5 note from back in the day. It was like it was like a promotional thing for Dunville's. When you ask for Dunville's Old Irish Whiskey, see that you get it as great as there are a great many spurious imitations, saying Dunville & Co. Limited. So I have those up. So pretty good. I'm sure Jarlath will appreciate that.
We have a packed show tonight. Should I hit the theme tune?
Hit the theme tune, because we've a super guest tonight. Super guest.
Yep, we're going to have to hit it. Here we go. That's not the only theme tune we have this week. You know that? We've another theme tune as well.
Oh, yes. We've got a great one. Now, I haven't heard that, so I'm going to pour myself a wee quick whiskey while we're talking about this. Now, first up, climate change on everybody's one thing. Now, Glengoyne, the Scotch whisky brand, they have commissioned a report. They did commission a report into climate change and its effect that it's going to have on Scotch whisky. And according to the report, it's going to have a dramatic effect. Now, they're talking about by 2080 that it will have a massive effect. Now, I know this seems a long time ago or long time in the future, but it's really only 50 years. You think about it, the 1960s to now, it's not really, or 1970s to now, it's not really all that long, you know.
What are you trying to rub it in? I'm 50 this year or something like that there, are you?
Well, I'm not, but like that. Anyway, now, what they said is water will be much harder to come by in Scotland. Now that, I know, again, this sounds really, really ridiculous. But 3 years ago, 5 of Isla's distilleries and the 2 in Pitlochry, so Edredur, which is one of the prettiest distilleries you could ever imagine, it's just picture perfect, and the Blair Atholl distillery, which I was there last week, in 2018 had to stop production because they ran out of water. They just couldn't make it. Okay, so this is happening.
Did they really?
No, they ran out of water. Now, Glenfarclas in the same year, they lost about a month's production because of water shortages. So the report states that the Scottish whisky industry uses 61 billion litres of water a year annually, and a single litre of whisky takes 47 litres of water to produce. Now, Scotland has plenty of water now. We know that. I mean, we're not silly, but any sort of cutting that continuous supply of water is going to have a huge effect. Now, all of this is sort of important, certainly in Scotland at the minute, because, well, the Scottish Whisky Association has said that by 2040, Scotch whisky production will be carbon neutral. But maybe that's not soon enough, to be honest. I think there's more of an urgency for all of this stuff because we can see the effects of it. I mean, the leaves are still on the trees. Most of the trees around here are still green, and we're nearly in November. You know, so there are strange things happening.
Yeah, I'm not a Greta Thunberger, but I would rather err on the side of caution than go down that route. You know.
Yeah. Now the Scotch Whisky Association have produced a blend of 26 distilleries for the COP26 meeting, which is coming up in Glasgow. Now, there's 900 bottles of this. It's going to be handed out to the negotiators, which is happening next month. So, this is real. I mean, we know this is a problem. We've known about this for a long time, and I don't think people have taken it seriously. And it's nice that the whisky industry seem to be sounding the alarm bells and actually doing something about it. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. These things take a bit of time, but the more and more that these people are doing this, the better it is. Now, Glengoyne have a number of environmental projects up and running, and they are releasing, they might have actually released it, I'm not sure if I didn't check, a single cask to raise money for the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust, which again is to promote biodiversity and also produce carbon sinks to try and absorb carbon dioxide. So good on them. It's become more real every day, so there has to be something done about it, you know.
So Andrew McAllister's just joining the show. Yes, we can't get YouTube tonight for some reason. Andrew, did it show an error message there when you tried to log in? Let us know. Always let us know. It's good to check in with us. Then we know everything's happening and everything's hunky-dory as well.
Yeah. Now, Drinks International published a list of the world's most admired whiskies this week. And they surveyed judges, experts, industry experts, all that kind of jazz, to ask about the most admired whiskies. And there was quite a few surprises there. The winner was Yamazaki, the Japanese the whiskey brand, Suntory's sort of flagship brand. But second place, bring that up in full screen, my old son.
I am going to have to bring it up. That's the biggest I can make it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, number 2 on the list was Redbreast, which it's a bit of a surprise. Number 3, Lagavulin, which is not really a huge surprise that Lagavulin got up there. Now, there were 4 Irish whiskies on the list, and you can see it there. You brought it up, good man. You can see there, number 5's Balvenie, the super brand. Ardbegg's there. Number 8, Springbank. One of the ones in 13th place, Johnny Walker, beat Macallan, which some would say is a bit of a surprise. The 4 Irish ones, Redbreast, Teeling in 17th. Well done, guys, because I don't think Teeling sometimes get the credit they deserve. Waterford is there in number 30, which again for a very, very young distillery, that's a hell of an achievement. And then down in number 50 is Jameson. Now, it's a surprise Bushmills is not there. Maybe some of the releases that they've brought out over the last while haven't really hit the mark. Of the 50 brands that are named in that report, in that section of the report, 24 were Scotch, 4 Irish, 6 Japanese, 9 from the US. Actually, the Cotswold Distillery, English distillery, English whiskey distillery has made probably a surprise entrance to it. So it was kind of a few surprises thrown up.
You don't put a lot of faith in some of these industry stuff. It's like the Backslappers Club, isn't it?
Well, the thing about this is they limited the amount of entries they could make for each demographic, and there's some of the awards stuff. We all know it's a bit, you have to pay to enter the awards and all this kind of stuff, but a lot of it, I mean, it's recognition. Drinks International, I think are fairly neutral on the whole thing, and the list that they've brought up seems to be fairly robust and fairly independent. So yeah, now, although Ireland has it's second and it's 4 mentions in it, in terms of its sort of the 4 big whiskey regions, or the 4 most represented regions, Ireland's the least represented there. So yeah, there's a bit of work to do yet. It's encouraging that they're number 2, but there's still a bit of work to be done. Now, that report, it's well worth having a look at it. And if you can post
seems
up
fairly
there.
in depth, Marty. It goes in depth and gives you a background. There's one of the Scandinavian ones. Is it Caro? Yes, Finland. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And English whiskey makes an appearance. There's the 2 Indian ones, the 2 Paul John and Amrit's there. So you can see that there's a sort of difference. Although Scotch makes up nearly half of the entries, 24 out of the 50, it goes to show you that there's world whiskey is making many, many more inroads into it.
I've never noticed this about Ardbeg before, but the pagoda design seems very, very similar to Bushmills on the Ardbeg there, doesn't it?
But the pagoda design's a sort of ubiquitous thing, because it used to be where the maltings, it was like early air conditioning. And it's kind of ubiquitous, even though they don't do the maltings there now, you know.
Yeah, I've seen a similar one in Adams Brewery in Southwold or somewhere like that, in Norfolk or somewhere like that. But anyway, very interesting report. Say hello if you're watching tonight. Remember to comment, like, and share, and tell your friends. Get them involved in whiskey, even if they aren't into whiskey. They'll enjoy the show for pure entertainment purposes as well.
If you can see what happens just before it goes on, it's pure entertainment as we go, what the hell are we doing tonight? Try and cobble the thing together in about 10 minutes. No. Anyway, now this is, I saw this the other day, and it's a tie-up between Indian, the motorcycle manufacturers, and Jack Daniels, and they've produced. I think this is the 6th time they've done this, and they've produced a motorbike. Okay,
there it is. Look at that machine.
Bring it up in full screen.
Look at that there machine. Why can't I get one of them with Irish whiskey review written down the side?
It's hideous, Justin. Look at it. What is that big?
It looks like a Borg headlight. I think it looks fantastic.
You're easy pleased. I think it
and
looks
it's one of those offset engines with a big V, isn't it?
No, it's a V. It's a V twin engine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But look at it. It looks like it's wearing a space helmet. It's a Challenger Dark Horse. Now, there's only 107 of them available, and it's a Power Plus liquid cooled V twin engine. 122 horsepower, $37,000.
Not cheap.
I think
not
it's
cheap.
hideous. Yeah, but
Not
let's
cheap.
be honest. It's not going to lose much money, is it? Look at it. Imagine looking out your rear view mirror and looking at that. You think it's something different. You think Spider-Man or somebody's going to come in and save you.
You
sat behind
would.
you.
You certainly would. Look at that.
Look at that. It's like he's going to fire a laser beam at you and incinerate you. No, I think it's hideous.
No, I don't know. I kind of like that.
Yeah. You're easy pleased, Justin. You're easy pleased.
I know.
Now, we've come up with something every week, right? Every week, you read a story about somebody who hasn't died, and they're celebrating. They haven't died for about a century, and they claim that it's whiskey that has propped them up and kept them living. Okay, so this old lady, and good on her. I'll tell you a wee story in a wee minute. So her name's Pam McGrath, and she turned 100, and she says it's because she drinks whiskey and ginger every evening. Now, I done a tour. I done a tour last week, and there's two old women on it. And one was 84 and one was 83. The 84-year-old Diane had never left the States before. It was the first time she'd ever left. And her mate Jean, 83, she'd been about a few times. She'd been out and about. So anyway, Diane was drinking away the whole week. She was out and done a pub crawl and all the rest. It was dead good. It's just a wonderful woman. Her mate Jean was telling me, and that's just a wee funny story. It's nothing to do with whiskey, by the way. 83, we're talking to her, and she said, I was married and I've been divorced 3 times. My second husband has recently got back in touch with me. And when we were married, he wasn't a nice man. He was a bit unkind. But he's got back in touch with me again about letting him come down and see me. And this is what she said. She says, but I don't think so, because I think it's just a booty call.
Okay.
83 years age, she says, I think it's just the booty call he's after.
Okay. All right.
They're funny.
I think just for that we have to go like this here. So we'll do it.
Now this is for the people who say that they haven't died and it's down to whiskey. We've decided we're going to give them the Long Liver Award. So every time we see one, we'll play the long liver, and that's the first time I've seen that. It's pretty cool. Now, so there's another one this week.
Yeah.
This is Laurie Morse, who's 101 from Spokane in Washington State. He says that the reason he hasn't died is because of good whiskey and good food. So that was reported in the Spokesman Review from Spokane. So he gets the Long Liver Award. Well done. Right. Play the jingle.
I think we'll do it again. We'll do it again. There we go.
Aye, so the long livers. Well done to them. It's every week you get one of them. There's always somebody that hasn't died. Well done for not dying. There's a glass of whiskey. So good on them, the long livers. Now, Johnny Walker have done a huge piece of what's called nominative determinism, and they've appointed a new master distiller. Now, it's the first female one, this lady here, and her name is Dr. Emma Walker. Dr. Emma Walker.
Oh, listen. Listen. I've got to tell you a story about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a department store in Dublin, right?
Yeah.
And my friend's cousin worked there. A guy went to university's cousin worked there, right? And this old dear had been going to Switzer's all her life, and she was given off about bad service in Switzer's for years and years, for hours and hours and hours, and saying, I've been coming here for years and have an account. And at the end, she says, what's your name anyway, love? and the wee girl pulled back her name badge and it said Switzer, and the old doll near died because she thought she was a Switzer of Switzer's department store, and obviously not the chain that owned it. But yes, that's quite funny. She's not a relative of Johnny Walker then.
I don't think so. Possibly she could have been a relative of John Walker, but she's now the master distiller of Johnny Walker. So good, well done, congratulations on that. Now, last but not least, do you remember last year we had the controversy about the Whiskey Bible, about the sexist reviews that Jim Murray was coming out with, about how it was like, I don't know, some...
I do remember. Now, yes.
Well, this week he's produced, this is the cover of the Whiskey Bible for 2022. So instead of going all wokey and saying, oh, I'm very sorry, and a sort of plain pastoral figure of some inspirational quote on it to make you feel like it should be hanging on a bit of wood in your kitchen, he's decided to go with this, where he looks like He-Man standing on top of it. He's like
Masters Universe. Listen, good on. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting beyond ridiculous.
But like this, I just like the fact he thought, stuff it. I'll double down. Here I am, master of the universe. Thing. Now, fair play to him. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. Well done, Jim. Salute you for that, buddy.
All right. Now, we're running a wee bit behind tonight. Our guest is standing by, still there for us. I'll give you a clue of where we're going, because obviously the titles were lost whenever we keeled over. I don't think it says. We are the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen tonight, and we're going to visit this place, which looks fantastic in the twilight. Look at that there.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like a shrine. That looks like Knock. We could go there and pray.
You think miracles will happen down there? But put it like this, to be fair, after everything that's happened, it is a kind of miracle that it's there. But we'll bring on James. There he is.
Evening.
Good evening.
Hiya.
After all the everything, we're actually here, and
You've
James
kept it
Doherty.
exciting.
Yes. Jeez. Kept everybody on the edge of their seat. I was going to say on the edge of their toes there. That wouldn't be right. No, we're joined by James Doherty of Slieve League, Silky, or Dra, whatever way we want to describe it. And this week was an exciting week for you, James. Tell us why.
Well, we ran the wash stills for the first time, and we'll be running the intermediate stills tomorrow for the first time, and we'll have Spirit on Wednesday. So.
Justin just blasted our eardrums. I'm wearing headphones. Cheers, Justin. You just deafened me.
I know, but that was quite a moment. It's been a long time coming, so it's relief and excitement kind of mixed together, really.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure there probably a few dusty eyes about the place. I would have thought, I've got a bit of dust in the eye there.
Yeah, well, actually, we did. We had a ceremony around the filling of the mash, the cooker, because we don't have a mash tun. So we had all of the family there for that, and had hosted the mash going in, and we all threw a glass of whiskey in, and sort of toasted absent friends. So that was a pretty emotional moment. This one was just a bit of a smile, and job done.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure you must have been absolutely delighted. Yeah. Now, we need a bit of background. Okay, how and where did you get into whiskey originally?
So interesting, actually. You were talking about water earlier, because I'm a water engineer, and I'd been out in Africa for years, but came back to the UK from Malawi, and just targeted a whole load of food and drink companies in the late 90s, and got a break with William Grant and Sons, actually. So they took me on. They actually advertised for a bloke who had European languages, sales experience, and knew the drinks trade. And I was a tea farmer from Africa with two African languages. So they took a big punt on me, really. And I worked through Grants for about 14 years in various sales and marketing roles, and ended up on the board for a while, and to the point actually when Tullamore Dew was bought. Mm-hmm. I left just about a year after Tullamore was bought, and joined Peroni, I joined Foster's, but Foster's then immediately got taken over by Sab Miller, the owners of Peroni, and they sent me out to Asia, to Hong Kong, to to open up Asia really for them for Peroni, which was hardly the toughest job in the world. And, but we did a couple of years of that, but had quite quickly realized that the corporate thing was done for me. And both Maureen and I, Maureen had an idea for gin, and I wanted to bring back sort of smoky Irish whiskey. So we really spent a couple of years maxing out bonus schemes, which paid for the gin still. And so, yeah, that's, I suppose we come back with this idea of reclaiming the distilling heritage of Donegal, trying to bring back that Ulster style of smoky Irish whiskey. And we also make savoury maritime gin. And we've got a few other things in the pipeline that if we ever get some time and a bit of money, we might actually make as well. But the real focus now is really focused on getting that whiskey distillery now, get the recipes right, get it really pumping.
Yeah. Now, you say you were working for grants, but you have a family background in Donegal, and Donegal heritage of whiskey and potchine making. It's pretty much the same thing, really. But what's that?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty hard to find anyone from Donegal who hasn't got some sort of illicit distiller somewhere, and it's pretty well documented by Coffey when he was the tax inspector up here, that pretty much everyone was at it. So both my granddads were potchine men. I have my mum's dad's recipe, which we will now make, that we have some space to actually get on and make some potchine. So yeah, and the fact that there's there was when we came back no sort of legitimate distilling presence in Donegal kind of seemed completely alien to us. So it's kind of in the blood or in the soul anyway.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've a couple of books about Donegal potchine making, and you know that rich heritage of it. These days, there's that sort of separation between whiskey and potchine, but back in the day, there just wasn't. You know.
No, absolutely, and I think actually, I mean, it's quite interesting that the technical file is being looked at from a whiskey perspective to make it historically accurate, as opposed to just modern traditionally accurate. And I think that's a really good thing. Yeah. And I think it's only, it'll happen for potchine too, so that you kind of define potchine more by what it is or was than what it isn't. Which at the moment is kind of what it's kind of trying to pull the two categories apart. But I think there's a bit of work to do to make sure you kind of align all the forces to get any changes through. But I think it's a really good thing to do, and I think it's interesting to see what can be done with the potchine category, because the industry, the Irish whiskey industry, and potchine to some extent is at once sort of supremely old and traditional, and also extremely young and kind of gangly teenager almost.
It is. I mean, it surprises me that people have this idea that Irish whiskey has all this heritage and it's all carried on. But as we all know, it reached a pinch point where it almost totally disappeared.
Yeah.
And now, in some ways, it's trying to recapture that old heritage and bring it on. And there's some people doing it really, really well, and some people not so much. But
yeah, I think it's some interesting challenges out there when you look at all of us. We're all kind of chasing around, hoping to make sure that we don't run out of money more than anything else. But there's different ways of doing it. There's the beautiful stills. How do you for us, it's about what we're calling the pursuit of peated perfection. So it's just about smoky Irish whiskey. We're not making any unpeated whiskies, and so we'll only make one component of the silky. So we'll continue to source silky forever. Apart from the peated elements, and I think it is an interesting kind of time now where for 40 or 50 years everyone's been told that Irish whiskey is the smooth, sweet, easy one, and actually now it's the sort of premium, super premium, rich and differentiated one, and all of us trying to find a way of winning in that space, and for us that's a kind of very distinctive Donegal style, which will hopefully means we only have to resonate with a smaller group to be successful, liked by 1 in 1,000 maybe.
I think you'll find us likely more than 1 in 1,000, to be honest. Now, you came up with the idea coming to Donegal, back to Donegal, because I mean you spent an awful lot of time there as a kid. You might obviously speak with an English accent, so you were born over there, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I grew up in
He's English. He's English.
Well, he's British. I don't think you could class anyone with my bloodline to be English, but but actually, it took me coming back to Ireland to realise I wasn't Irish. So I'm not sure what I am really. But the
Anglo-Irish.
yeah, I think my upbringing was a fairly typical kind of first generation Irish kid.
Yeah.
You know, come back, live like a feral kid on a farm for 8 weeks. You know, ripping around tractors, messing about, fishing in rivers and dibbling in the sea and what have you. And so I have very, very rose-tinted spectacles when I think about the area, and that's probably been one of the reasons for us kind of sticking at it, because you know it hasn't been the easiest run for us. We've had a lot of roadblocks put in the way. My finance director, when we started, said this will take you twice as long and cost you twice as much as you think, and I laughed at him at the time, but by God, he was right. But I think it helps to be an outsider, to have a little bit of a kind of dispassionate view on what works and what doesn't work and what resonates, and how you can bring that alive in an interesting way, hopefully. And that's really, I suppose, where Silky is at the moment, is trying to do something distinctively Donegal, but maybe accessible and kind of bringing a safe level of challenge, which will hopefully challenge a bit more and take it a bit further on with the distillery in Ardra.
No. Now, originally, I have to ask you about this. Originally, it was to be in the Slieve League distillery, and it was to be in a different location than it's ended up.
That's right. So that's the wash still, by the way, Marty, there with the offset neck. So, sorry, I drew that on a napkin with Richard Forsyth, and I'm kind of chuffed. So,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that reason. We'll get to the reason for this.
But we had a site in Carrick, which is where the gin distillery is at the moment. So we have a field. We actually own the field now, but it's called the Bull Field, a 20-acre site. We had planning permission on it, and then just as we were about to complete on the deal, a local farmer who was squatting on the land essentially, but then decided to take out a high court injunction against me and the landowner, purely to sort of a spurious legal case to try and delay everything or get some money. Once he mentioned money, I said, I'll see you in court. So we went to the High Court with lots of actions going around, but it just took too long. So whilst we were wading through this spurious legal action, we then found another site in Ardra, went through planning, got planning, and that's where we are. So we've got that site, and literally it's 51 weeks ago, you know, we started putting piles down, and lots of people on Twitter had great fun talking about my piles, and you know, we're distilling already. So it's unfortunate, you know. I think rural Ireland and land is always a problematic thing, and I think actually me being related, I think it might have been easier if I was, I don't know, German and was coming back to do it and didn't have any tie to the area. It might have been easier actually.
Now, I think the thing about it is you have to remember rural Irish people. They measure each other in how much land they have. Land's the only thing they're interested in. You see two farmers appear, and you see them sort of sizing each other up to figure out how much land. So it's unbelievably important to people.
It's beyond reason, and so. But I mean, ultimately, we won the court case, so we own the site and we have the planning permission. Which is, I suppose, kind of there's a bit of an "I told you so" in it, but there's also an amazing frustration. So
ask him, does he want to buy it?
Yeah, yours for $500,000 if you want to site.
Oh, I know, bro.
Permission.
And legal fees as well. Now, so you got the site in Ardra. And a year ago, now you did some crowdfunding, which went quite well for you.
Yes, absolutely, astonishingly well. You know, I mean, the thing is that any of the guys that are doing what we're doing, you know, it takes 10 million to build a distillery of that size. You know, so 500,000 litres, so, you know, 3,000 barrels a year or whatever. And we had kind of done it, all of our fundraising around sort of friends, family, fanatics, if you like, trying not to have any institutional money in the business if we could avoid it. And the crowdfund was the last of those steps. You know, we'd exhausted our friends, we'd exhausted our family, and so we kind of were on to the fanatics. And you know, we went live with looking for 1 million, and we got 2.3. And in reality, I mean, raising 2.3 million in COVID was pretty special.
It's incredible. It was incredible.
But to be honest, if we hadn't got as much as we got, we probably could have built the distillery, but struggled to run it. So it's made a huge difference. And now we move into the cask scheme, and we'll probably go crowdfunding again next year sometime.
Well, the thing about it is that the vote of confidence that must have been for you and Moira and the whole project. I mean, you had to take huge vote of confidence in you.
And the funny thing as well is it kind of forced us to. I know Jarlath up at Ecklandville sort of said to me one day, he said, "I love the way you tell the story." And what's really interesting is that crowdfund was forced us to do it. Forced us to really be clear about who we were, and also you kind of had to stick your head above the parapet, and you couldn't go into that half-assed or half-hearted. You had to really go at it hard, and we did that. And it would have been a very public fail if it didn't go right, but it did go right. So we found our voice, and all the better for it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was the biggest food and drink crowdfunder in Europe or something.
No, it was the third biggest in the UK and the fifth biggest in Europe.
I mean that's incredible. Huge vote of confidence.
Yeah.
Now you've got your money, you've got your site, you've got an idea and a vision in your head. Yeah. So the offset stills, explain these. Why you said drew them in a napkin. Why did you draw them on a napkin, and how did you come up with this?
Actually, I drew them. That wash still was drawn on a napkin after over dinner with Richard Forsyth Senior. He came out to look at the original site, and we had dinner with him afterwards. And he looked at the valley that we were going to put it in, and he said, "Do you know what? If this was Scotland, there'd be 3 or 4 distilleries in this valley." And I kind of went, but there's
don't be telling anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anyone else that. But
Nick telling anybody, Richard.
But we wanted to do our take on the Ulster style. So Ulster was always peated. I'm not really interested in what Bushmill tells about the Ulster style anymore. but everybody knows that that's what it was, and so we wanted to bring that back. That's also true to the local spirits and how they were, and then we wanted, unlike the sort of, I suppose, the Ulster style, which was double distilled, we wanted to do triple distilling. So you've got 3 stills, a 10,000 litre wash still, a 5,000 litre intermediate, and a 3,600 spirit still. And when I was doing the research on Irish whiskey and how it was doing, there was this thing about offset necks and how the stills got so big that they'd move the necks off to the side so that they could drive a rummager to stop the gas-fired stills getting caked on at the bottom, and it's no one does it anymore. And I kind of thought, geez, wouldn't it be fun to kind of bring back something like that and see what it see what it does. And when I drew it on the napkin and said, "That's what I want," because he said, "Well, I made one for Tullamore," and I went, "Yeah, I know, but it's ugly, so I don't want an ugly one. I want a good-looking one." And so I drew it, and he said, "Oh," he says, "that'll give you loads of reflux. That'll do this. That'll do that." He says, "I'd love to make that for you." So I went, "Okay, well, let's kind of pencil that in and see if we can do it." So that's where we are.
Now, anyone who doesn't know what a rummager is, it's basically normally a chain or something on the bottom, basically to stop any solids that we get through sticking to the bottom of the still and causing the acrid taste, burning on the bottom of the still. So that would have come down through the center of the still, so the neck would be offset, so that
you could put the drive shaft there. Yeah,
you put the drive shaft down through it so that you run the rummager. So now you've got 4 sides are making the stills. So 4 sides have made the stills.
Yeah,
bringing them across.
They've done the whole thing actually, Marty. It's a full turnkey, which is partly because I suppose we haven't got didn't have a master distiller on board like a Noel Sweeney or whatever. In that we didn't have one of those guys on the team from the get go. Partly because I'm an engineer by training and know a bit, but not enough. And so we needed someone that was going to hold our hands through it. Yeah. And also I think because when you're raising money, having someone like Forsyth making the stills kind of underwrites it a little bit.
James, do you think that helped you, that they just come and said, "Listen, here's a fantastic piece of engineering. This will make good whiskey no matter what"?
Yeah, well, and I think yes, and also, like we're commissioning at the moment, and so things have gone wrong. So the mill didn't cut it up. We didn't mill the barley, the malt fine enough the first one, and it clogged up the heat exchangers, and we've got lots of heat exchangers because we're trying to do as much heat recovery to your kind of carbon footprint piece at the beginning.
Yeah.
And if you have a foresight, you can turn around and say, dudes, this is yours. You need to sort this. And that's a much more comfortable position than trying to work out who owned the heat exchangers and which bit of pipe is belonging to which piece of which engineering firm. So they've given us a full turnkey from grain intake right the way through to the stills, but it's all based on the philosophy of an illicit distiller. So it's all grains in. So like Woodford Reserve would do. I think Ecklenville's does it, I think, as well. I think they filter some of theirs, but not all of it. And I wanted a sort of system that if Grandad arrived tomorrow, he'd recognise it on an industrial scale. So
I can see it with a wee pipe out the pipe. There you go, fill that up there.
To be honest, I think the revenue think we have got that, but and it'll give us some richer, oilier flavors that you get out of the husks. You also tend to get a bit more citrusy notes, so it should be. There should be some really interesting liquids that come out of this.
Yeah. Now you're going for this, lots of reflux. Now you say you're triple distilling, not double.
Yeah, so we've got the flexibility to do both, and essentially I want to make a sort of very refined version of a smoky Irish whiskey, triple distilled for our draw, and I'm undecided yet as to whether we'll make something for Slieve League, which would be bigger, more robust, and peated, sort of not quite octomore levels, but certainly kind of really frightening people. And whether that's then double or triple distilled, we'll decide a bit nearer the time. We'll see what we make and see what it looks like.
I think you'll go double. I think double is probably, in your heart of hearts, you're probably going to go double. Let's be honest.
Well, the stills are really short, Marty. So we've got. So they probably will only create a 2 3/4 times anyway. So yeah. We'll bring you down. You can have a bit of a taste, and we can work it out together.
Right, Justin, you're driving. Right, okay, we've got that sorted. You hear that?
I heard it. Yeah.
To Mark's question, yeah, I've tasted the spirit from the wash. I've tasted the wash as it when it went through the first still. The peat was beautiful. Came out really much sweeter than we were expecting. And yeah, what we do tomorrow will probably give us a best indication of what the spirit's going to be like.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So in terms of
that's Graham, our distiller, actually. So he's just joined us. He came over from Canada, Graham Bell. So he's done he worked with Diageo up at Mortlake, and he's been on the commissioning of Bullet in Kentucky, and he's been with a smaller distillery in Canada and Hamilton, Canada, for a few years.
Yeah, well, put it like this: if he was at Mortlake, I love Mortlake. I think it's awesome. It's so almost overlooked.
Yeah,
Mortlake's a superb whiskey. If anybody watching this, if you haven't tried Mortlake, get a bottle because it's fantastic. I have about 4 bottles sitting up here. Yeah, so you've got, in terms of capacity. You said, what did you say?
So it's 500,000 litres on 2 shifts. So, but we've got space within the building to put in a 3rd set of fermenters. I just don't have the money for them right now. So the gin still is actually moving out of the site in Carrick to move up to our draw, because we have we've run out of space for bottling Silky. So we've just need the space down there. So it's coming up, and then next year we'll build the gin building. We'll move the gin still across. We'll put 3 more fermenters in, and then hopefully go to 3 shifts, so 24/7. The spirit still and the intermediate. You can see the intermediates in the center of that screen. They're kind of inspired by Macallan in terms of the way their stills look. So the sort of curves are more similar to the wash still, but the actual kind of dimensions of the pot are Macallan.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the gin. You've mentioned the gin a few times.
Yeah.
In some ways, the whiskey world sort of overlooks that. But I've heard you've been interviewed before, and you take a great level of pride in what your wife has done as well.
Well, yeah, probably because she's a better distiller of gin than me. But I suppose that you look at the gin, and I think there's a lot of people that kind of think you make gin because it's something to do whilst you're waiting for whiskey to mature, and it's cash that comes in. But the reality is the gin world is so competitive that actually it's not a profitable thing straight off the bat. And also, if you make a gin that is kind of run of the mill, then it doesn't work anyway. So, our gin is incredibly savoury. Andulaman Irish Maritime Gin, 5 seaweeds. We were actually picking one of them this week because it's a full moon, and we only pick on the low tide of a full moon. But we use it because
that's a bit mystical, James, is it not? That's a bit mystical. You'll be jack-o'-lantern as well.
I tell you what, jack-o'-lantern with dodgy knees, that's what I've got. But the thing is, I suppose I think of the gin as a big idea on its own, and that means it's worthy of doing and stands on its own. But it's also technically quite complicated. It's complicated to make, it's complicated to deliver, and it underpins our distilling credentials rather than just something we do whilst we wait for something else to mature.
Well, the thing about it is, normally when you think of gin, the botanicals of gin, you're thinking about very sort of citrusy, punchy flavors. Whereas seaweed, I love seaweed. I love crispy seaweed. I fry dulse all the time as a sort of alternative to bacon. It's fabulous. But it doesn't have necessarily the qualities you'd associate with the gin botanical.
No, and it's also a bugger to distill, literally. I mean, it's the real challenge, and I think where Moira is particularly deft at it is separating out the kind of big umami, savory richness flavors from the kind of fishy, dirty flavors. And there are plenty of seaweed gins out there that kind of just are one-trick ponies, whereas ours, I would argue, is kind of deep and complex, a bit dense. It's actually probably a whiskey drinker's gin, if anything, but it's everything we do really has a sense of place. So it's for the gin, it's the Donegal coast, but it's also got a sense of time. And so the whiskies, it's about pre-prohibition whiskey and bringing that back to the world. And in the gin, we'd sort of target the Spanish Armada, a time where there wouldn't have been sweet drinks, where everything was savory, and then kind of the bottle, the bottle design kind of comes from that era as well. So hopefully that allows us to kind of be distinctive within a very crowded market. I mean, there's a lot of young distilleries out there now trying to do to do their thing. And for us, that's about kind of being really focused around time and place as the sort of two things that drive us.
Yeah. Now, you're doing gin.
Yep.
You've already said you're going to do pot still.
Yep.
Or you're going to do pot still. You're going to do pot chain, single malt as well.
Yep.
And also keep the silky up and running.
Yep.
So you're going to have very quickly, say very quickly, but in relative terms, you're going to have basically ticked all the boxes, cover all of the areas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions coming in to do with this because Mark Kerr thought, does that mean there's another 2 special releases as each still comes online?
No, I haven't thought that far, Mark, and I didn't think very much about this one, and the team weren't very pleased when I turned around and said, quick, I want to do a bottling of cask strength. But no, I think our ambition is always, I suppose we've always set out to say we're ambitious for more than just ourselves, and that actually what we want to create is an international spirits business that's based in Southwest Donegal, not a Donegal distillery. So it's always been about trying to create an international business, and I mean that for any of us, whether it's Blackwater or it's Shortcross, or for any of us, if we don't succeed internationally, then we're not gonna survive anyway. So that piece of it is about having brands as well as kind of underpinned by brilliant technical delivery of whiskey and gin. But trying to make a portfolio of brands that play in different categories that all tell a very unique story of this inspiring place that we live. So.
Now you touched on it. You sort of snuck up on everybody yesterday by saying, but I didn't even know. It was a friend of mine sent me a message. He says, there's a silky being released today. And I went, no, I haven't heard. And he says, no, it's been released today. It was at 4 o'clock or whatever it was he said. So I logged on, and lo and behold, there it was. Got myself a couple of bottles.
Yeah.
And I know there's plenty of guys on here that jumped on to buy them, because we do. I mean, genuinely, The first time I tasted, I've told you this before. The first time I tasted Silky, I was like, nah, not getting it.
Yeah, you were unconvinced, weren't you? Yeah,
but it did. It just got better and better and better over a period of time. It was remarkable how much it changed from when I first tasted it. Maybe I was different, and it just got better and better and better until I thought to myself, this is really, really good, really good.
I think. Do you know the funny thing is that whilst I wouldn't have, probably we weren't when we started out, I wasn't that. Blends wasn't really where my heart was at. What I kind of realized when I started playing with the guys at Great Northern, particularly, and saying, okay, well, what can we do? And here's our, here's a concept, here's a vision of what I want to make. And this one, Dark Silky is, granddad's pipe in the morning. It's that the illicit moment. And I've found it a really unexpected joy, kind of getting into blending. And I used to do stuff with Glenfiddich, with David Stewart, and so I think there's his fingerprints on the way we go at it. So that we look for balance, we look to surprise, and we always look for soft drinking hard spirits. So everything we do will have this soft mouthfeel, but it will be well above 40%. So. And actually, we're lucky that those whiskies are available. We can get to play with them. I love, Maura's from Zimbabwe, and we spent 7 years in Africa together. So we love cold drinks. So we blend them specifically to work with ice as well. So that's kind of. There's a few purists on here who probably.
Oh no, I love it. Anything that's iced or cocktails or anything like that, I have to have ice in it. Yeah.
You do have an unusual cocktail. You've one that you've told me a few times. That you said his lordship down here. This is his right up his street. So what is it?
Is this the football special? Yeah. So Silky and football special. And football special. With from a time when there were bottlers in all of the counties of Ireland. McDade's are still there. They're still going strong. Still got no artificial flavorings in, all natural flavorings. And it's, McDade's football special is world famous in Donegal. So we have a Silky special. I think there's a couple of guys on Twitter who are big into bitter lemon as well. And
yes, yeah, I like the bitter lemon. It works. It does work. It does work. It definitely does.
I like a slice of orange in it if I'm going to be a bit poncy. So because there's a nice orange note in the Silky that comes out quite well. So, and we've got some finish ideas that we haven't had the space. I would have loved to have done another. I have had another idea that we were going to do instead of red Silky this year, but haven't had the space to lay the barrels down. So you've probably seen, you've probably been tortured on Facebook with our kind of opening up states in America, but the business in America has just gone nuts this year, and I think we've got agreements in 48 states.
Oh man,
which is really quite something. And Dave Wood, our sales director for the states, he's a machine. So it's kind of given us a whole better class of headache, frankly.
I put it like this. I was doing tours the last couple of weeks. Where was the last week? Edinburgh. I was in Edinburgh. Never done this last week.
Yeah.
And people from the US. Thank God for Americans.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, it's kind of hard work doing a lot of the Americans. And at which point I pointed out, can you imagine going around with 25 people from Ireland in a coach? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Them all drunk by about 12 o'clock and punching the face off each other by the afternoon.
But there's things, Marty, that happen here that happen because it's such a small place, really. And the fact that we bought a house here off the internet when we were living in Hong Kong, and we moved in and then found out it was my great grandmother's homestead. Now you can imagine that story with an American. The Americans just melt at that story, and it's completely understandable because it's the serendipity of it's amazing. But actually, when you think about it, you came home to a place, it's 5 kilometers from where my mum and dad's house is, and you bought a house that happened. It's not that unlikely, really.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It's a sort of a coincidence that's. Probably look at the maths of it, it's not that much of a coincidence.
Well, so, but yeah, I mean, the Ardra place now is coming together really well. We've kind of done things inside that, when you come and see it, you'll see we've made it It's probably a bit taller than it needs to be because I wanted to give you a kind of cathedral-like feel that when people force you to look up at them. So we've routed pipes that could have gone through the floor. We've routed them up through the roof because it forces you to look up. And so we've done a few things that may be a little bit Disney, but why not?
Listen. I absolutely love a gimmick. All of that stuff works with me.
Cliche sells.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's all these people, and they want to be different. And that's perfectly fine. But there's a reason people like that kind of thing. I love all that. And especially whenever you do it and you don't realize, and then for a minute, and you go, "Oh, hang on, that's designed like that."
Yeah.
We did Blake's of the Hollow. Whenever we were down there, Bernie Blake was explaining how she was designing things. She wanted to make little narrow places where people would come up and bump into each other. Oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
And I love all that. I love it all. All of that's superb.
And it's all about stories, really. And that's why I guess that's, we call our cask scheme Shanachie, because it's you buy a barrel because you want to tell a story, not because you want 300 bottles. And it's quite fascinating for me how you kind of don't realize you're selling a dream for so long, and then suddenly you've got a big distillery there, and suddenly everyone's like, okay, I like this idea now. This might actually happen. So
there is a barrel. Talk us through that barrel, James.
So that barrel there is actually it's used for the gin. So when we age Doulaman to make Doulaman Santa Ana, which is a barrel aged Armada strength gin, it's aged in Rioja casks because they come from the commander of the Santa Ana, the ship that sank off the coast, was from Rioja. So that's from the Toneleria Juan Pinto. They make them up. For us, they bring them up. We bring them in tens. So we bring in 10, and we do one batch of Santa Ana a year. Because Red Silky went so well last time, and people keep torturing me with it. We've got Rioja and Ribeiro casks coming in, and now I've got a warehouse that I've got space to lay some more down in. So we'll do some more things with Silky now as we go forward, and we'll do it in the same warehouse where all the Shanachie casks are.
Lovely. There's Frank Heron saying he cannot wait to have a pint of Guinness and Nancy's and then do the tour in the distillery.
Yeah, you'll walk out the garden at the back of Nancy's, and you'll be able to walk over the footbridge to the distillery. Yeah.
Well,
look forward to that.
Yeah, so do I. Now you have the release yesterday. It's €80 a bottle it's a cask strength version, isn't it?
That's it. Yep.
Now your cask strengths are cask strengths. There's no none of this.
We don't make around. They change each one, so you know they are what they are. So I think this is 64.5. I've actually got the regular 46 bottling here.
Yeah, I've got the 46s because sometimes I've done this before with the cask strength where I forgot to put water in it.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
It drinks well, but
it drinks well, but it will kill you if you drink too much.
Definitely,
you could forget yourself quite quickly on it.
Yeah, it's done really well. There's a couple. I think it's about 25 or 30 left at the moment. So, but it was just when I saw the wash still, I said, "Mo, we've got to do something." And normally I kind of write a blog or something. I was like, "God, geez, just let's go and bottle something," And she said, "Well, what?" And I said, "Well, we did Silky earlier in the year. Let's do Dark Silky now." And went, "Okay, let's do it." And it was the reason for the 22nd. Actually, my youngest son, who's 17, he was 17 yesterday, but it was also Moira's dad's birthday as well. But he died a few years ago. But it was kind of able to recognize him. So because he would have been very chuffed with her and very proud of what she's doing and what she's achieved. So
now, there's only a few bottles of it left. So anybody watching this, they correct me if I'm wrong. You do ship internationally, don't you?
Well, so no, it's Northern Ireland only. If someone was in the EU, it's more straightforward. But the UK, when we had all the crowdfunding rewards that we sent out to people who invested, we had parcels 6 months later just sent back to us, not even opened, hadn't even opened the paperwork, and it was just like the customs had said, too much hassle, we're not interested. So at the moment, the last lot we did for the UK, it took us 3 months to get it through and get it cleared, and so we just said, look, because this was lastminute.com, it's Northern Ireland only. If someone's a real fan and they're sitting in Europe and they want it, let me know and we'll work a way of getting it to you.
It's the whole thing's crazy. I don't understand how one one set of people can do this, the other set of people can't do this. They do this, and I mean, I came through Edinburgh Airport on Monday.
Yep.
And I thought
he got my hopes up. He got my hopes up.
No, what I told you was I would look for a bargain. If I thought I could see something of value, I'd get you. And I was going through, and the girl says, "Oh, you can only buy from these two wee aisles."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, why?" He says, "Oh, because of Brexit." And I said, "Well, I don't understand how I can only buy from these two aisles a product that's made in the UK, that's being sold in the UK, and is ending up in the UK. So how can I not buy this stuff?" And says, "Oh, Brexit." No, I've no idea what on earth. We're not late. We're not going anywhere.
No.
So I don't know.
But you saw that with the still. You remember when when the stills were delivered, one got smacked into by the crane driver, and had to go immediately back up the road. So that it was fixed within 24 hours. Yeah. But it took us 5 more days to get the paperwork sorted, to re-export it and then import it again. And even this week with taking the heat exchangers apart, we've had to make up spanners because the ones we wanted that were supposed to be sent in with the kit got stuck in customs because we had to pay €17 of extra VAT on them.
I've got to say it, a spanner in the works.
You had to have.
Sorry, yeah. Well, I'll just keep feeding the lines to you, Justin.
But no, I mean, I don't understand. I think there's so much confusion that people haven't a clue what they're doing. They just haven't a clue what.
And no one wants to make. Nobody official wants to make a mistake, and that's understandable.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough, but I mean, it's just bonkers. I was annoyed on Monday. I was very annoyed on Monday, and I didn't want to get cross at the lady that was serving me, because I don't tend to do that, but I was a bit upset. I was like, "Is that?" I
would question their competency, but there you go. That's another story.
The girls that serving you aren't the people making the decisions.
Not her, not her. That's not who.
So I don't tend to get cross at these people. But anyway,
Donegal isn't in the UK, says Seamus Toby. Yes, but it's still in Ulster, so don't worry. I would trade you Donegal for South Armagh, even though I know people love
that. Just leave me out of this conversation.
Sorry,
my accent gets me into big trouble with this one.
Sorry, Jim.
No, now you have the cask program coming up very shortly.
That's it. So we'll start actively. We just recruited a guy to run it for us, to lead it, which we're really excited about. We have 600 casks, either single malt or pot still. But I have to point out that our pot still is non-compliant pot still. So I expect it to be compliant by the time it gets released. But it is. So our mash bill is 50-30-20. So 50% malt, 30% barley, and 20% oats. In fact, I can tell you that cask number 1 has gone yesterday because the barley was delivered by a Donegal farmer from Lifford who insisted on buying cask number 1 with his barley in it. So, so the pot still, but
sounds reasonable.
Essentially, 600 casks, €6,000 a piece. You have single malt or pot still. In either a bourbon or a sherry cask. If you want something else, I'll work it out with you separately. But it's ostensibly it's to try and keep it simple enough. On the website, you can see there's full transparency on all the bottling costs, storage costs, all the rest of it. And if you don't want it at the end of the 5 years and you've tried to sell it and you can't sell it, I will buy it back off you at a compound 3.5% a year interest, which is more than the bank's giving you anyway.
Wow.
It's about 20 times more than the bank's giving anybody.
So
banks don't give anybody anymore. They've got to charge you for keeping your money these days.
Yeah, so it's not I mean, the thing is, for us, it's not an investment. You're part of the club. You're part of, just like your name goes around the base of the still forever, and it's about being a part of the history. And peated pot still is peated single malt and peated pot still is kind of still a relative rarity in Ireland. So
yeah. It is.
And for us, it's absolutely crucial to financing the business. So it's that you're keeping a business in the hands of the owners, not the hands of a venture capitalist.
Yeah, I mean, your range of products is admirable. I mean,
thank you.
You've had it is. I mean, the stuff that you brought out is fantastically good. I do have to say, the cask strength stuff does blow you away a bit, and it does take a lot of work. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit of faffing about, and you go, nah, I've overdone it, or
you've got to find the right ABV for you, for sure.
And it is. There's a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's half the fun. I mean, you don't buy this to sit and have a drink of it overnight as such.
I think it's surprisingly versatile for a young. They're young whiskies, really, and so that versatility kind of is a curse as well, because if I turn around and say, look, it's perfect at 52%, but I'm selling it to at 64, put in 13 mils of water and it'll be perfect. It would be one thing, but different people like it different ways. But I would always say ice, because it just dampens that heat for you.
Yeah. You need to be Rachel Riley doing, countdown, to figure out, right, 17 and 4. Yeah, but
there are people better at it than me, for sure.
But it is. It's a superb stuff, and their range of products are great. The dark salty, I'm a big fan of dark salty. I think it works in a way I didn't expect it to work as well as it does, if I'm totally honest. And the peat in it is at a level where it adds complexity without ever being dominant. It just it plays along. It's almost like different instruments playing a tune.
That's I think there was a quote that I heard from a much more eloquent man than me, who said that if you look at an orchestra, so you have a lead violinist who's a virtuoso in his own right, and you say, well, he plays the violin. What do you play? And the orchestra says, well, I play the orchestra. And that's the joy of a blender, is you get to play with so many things, and you also get to rule out certain things. So you can go in there and go, actually, that just doesn't work for me, and don't put that in front of me again. I don't want to touch that. But and we've got a newer silky coming out, so there's we're going to dial up the peating again another level. So you've kind of got, as some people call it now, light, dark, and darkest, but that's not the naming. But it seems that everybody gives their own naming. So we'll see how we go. So hopefully that'll be out sort of maybe before Christmas, but probably into the new year.
Yeah. There's a whole slew of new whiskies coming out. And I mean it's
and that new one from Morris, his peat and port is superb. So
I haven't tried it yet, but I will have to.
So I got a sneak. So there's some lovely things out there at the moment, and I've started doing more bottle sharing with guys, which is lovely, because I'm getting to try things I would wouldn't have bought on my own. So
yeah, I have a pile of miniatures here. That's why I do these whiskey reviews, and I'm starting to go through miniatures, because I just have a whole pile of them, and I need to just do them, and it's finding the time a lot of the time.
But guys, you must come down and see us. It's not far from you down to us, so
it's really not.
Even if it's not open, it won't be open to the public till probably next May time. We've only finished the production space. All of the visitor stuff is not done at all. That's just a shell. So but drop us a line and we'll make some time.
Well, we will definitely take you up on that.
Thank you,
James. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It always is. Every time I've been talking to you, it's
thank you. I enjoyed it.
It's lovely. And I know you watch the show pretty much every week, and thanks very much for that, because it's nice to have your support.
I just can't beat Mark Kerr when he gets in before me every week.
No, Mark Kerr beats everybody. He's like you see it. He's like the Usain Bolt of.
I actually don't know how he does it, because I've actually do it. I stall it sometimes and start early, and he still manages to do it. I don't know. He must have notifications set.
Well, the only thing I will say is Mark was one of the people that got the trial for the job.
No, but he's on 5G. He actually is on 5G. He does have 5G in his house.
But he got the job, so he probably got an upgrade. Maybe the conspiracy theorists are all right, man. Well, put like this, they are right. I've got the job twice, and my internet's still crap. So, right.
Oh dear. Well, yeah. Don't bring him then, because he might interfere with the broadband connection to the machines.
Oh no, he'll upgrade it, and your printers and everything will start working. James, listen, thanks very much, mate, and keep up the good work, and well done. Congratulations.
No worries, man. Thank you. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure, guys. Take care.
That's it for this week. Remember to comment, like, and share. Watch it again on YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube by midnight tonight. And well, thanks for watching, everybody. Yes, Connor Ryan, Michael Matthews. Who else is there? Patrick Motley saying hello as well. It's a wrap. Remember to tell all your friends and ask your smart speaker to play it on Irish Whiskey Review. And
you mean Alexa? Alexa,
no,
play.
don't say Alexa. Don't say Alexa or Google, or even if you have a Sonos, it will work on Sonos too if it's built in. But lovely stuff. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody for commenting. I hope we answered all your questions. And again, apologies about the technical difficulties. Can't be helped. It is the internet, and you know what it's like. It's like the Clockwork Orange. That's what it's like. All right. Good night.